If you've ever contemplated if there are other options outside of having a baby in a hospital, this video is for you. Hey, I'm Ashley. I am a mom to almost 4. I'm currently pregnant with my 4th baby, and I have so much to share in regards to out-of-hospital birth. Okay, where do we even start? So I first started off with an OB/GYN because that is what you do. That's what most people do when they find out they are pregnant. They go to an OB and they get the ultrasound and talk to the doctor and all of those types of things. So I made an appointment. I read tons of reviews for all of the different OBs that were in my insurance network and went with one that had really great reviews. And when I went, I essentially just felt like I was just a number. I felt like I was in a baby factory. And I sat in the waiting room and waited for a while, which is fine, you know, whatever. But then you sit and you wait to get your labs done, and then you sit and you wait in the private room. What is that? I don't know what that space is called right now, but you sit and you wait for the doctor to come, and then the doctor finally comes and you get probably 5 minutes with them where you try and ask as many questions as you possibly can. I tried to ask as many questions as I could, and I tried to come prepared with the questions in advance, and so that's actually something I would suggest that you do going forward. I just Googled, you know, things you should ask your OB or, you know, whatever when you're first having a baby. If you've never done it before and there's a lot of things that you want to know. You know, I left and it was like, you know, whatever. Nothing special. It was just like, okay, cool. I got my ultrasound and I did the thing and I talked to my doctor. And I think the thing that made me the most concerned was that, and I asked her about this too, I was like, so what are the chances that you're actually going to be delivering my baby? And I don't remember exactly what she said, but if you're familiar with how the OB situation works, is that they may or may not be delivering your baby. And if you're okay with that, then that's cool. But I just knew in my gut that there was a better way. And I don't think I would have even realized this had my mom not gone through it with my brother, but she actually gave birth at home. She had a water birth and she spoke very highly of that experience. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna look into it. So I just Googled some local birth centers, and then this one came up and I just looked at the website. I really liked it, and apparently it was new, so incredible timing, right? I booked a consultation. I went to go meet the midwife, and she's actually a good friend of mine today. I absolutely love her to death. And she's caught all 3 of my babies so far, and hopefully she'll be catching my 4th. Immediately when you walk into the birth center, it looks like a house on the outside when you go in. The vibe, the ambiance is just very homey. It's very cozy, it's relaxed. So different than a medical office or a hospital where it feels very sterile and you see hospital beds and hospital gowns. And like, when I think of a hospital, I think of like sickness and illness and injury, but you're not sick when you're pregnant, you know? It's a completely different experience. You're not ill, you don't have an injury, there's nothing wrong with you. Again, this is just what I felt called to do. And so I just immediately, I felt warm and I felt at peace, and I felt like it was a totally different route than the OB route. And so after I had my consultation with my midwife, I felt so good and at peace with talking with her. We had a whole 45-minute consultation, and that's how it is every time I go and see her. There's plenty of time for us to talk, and at this point, you know, I don't really have questions because I've already gone through it so many times. We usually just spend most of the appointment catching up and learning more about each other. And I feel like that relationship that you have between you and your midwife, it's so important because this person is seeing you at your most vulnerable, and they're helping you do something that is incredibly difficult and personal and intimate and private. And so I feel like having a relationship with my midwife, and that she knows certain things about me and I know certain things about her, and we have a closeness and a bond, it really makes that experience of childbirth so different than having one in a hospital with an OB. So I birthed in a hospital, I've birthed in a birth center, and I birthed at home. The plan for the fourth baby is to birth at home, hopefully in the water, because that's always been my goal, is to have a water birth. I have yet to have that experience, so hopefully this time I can experience a water birth. The reason why I was in a hospital for my first delivery was because I went way too late. I went past 42 weeks, and so by law I could not have an out-of-hospital birth. I had to deliver at a hospital, but I still had a midwife, and my midwife recommended me to go to this one hospital, and I had a really great experience. Was it my favorite birth? No, because I had the heart monitor strapped to my belly the whole time. I was attached to an IV the whole time. The way that you labor, you know, when you have these things around you, it's so different. I did opt out of the gown because I was like, no, I'm not wearing the gown. I wore a robe that I picked out from Target, and I just don't want to birth in a hospital gown. That's just a me thing. I don't know, you might not care about that, and that's totally fine. But that's just how I felt. So I wanted to stay as closely as possible to what I had envisioned for my original plans. Now, granted, you cannot always expect plans to go accordingly. They're just goals, they're plans. It's not like you have to go into it knowing that this is probably gonna change. And that's okay, but at least having an idea of what you want helps you achieve it, if that makes sense. So anyway, I had a natural birth. I did have Pitocin to kind of help move things along, and when you are on Pitocin, normally it is what causes your contractions to feel more strong more quickly, and so that's when you are more inclined to ask for an epidural, because it just becomes harder to bear because it's artificial. It's a drug that's helping you create the contractions instead of your own body. It's just different, right? Like if your body is producing the contractions on its own, it's more gradual. It happens in a way where, at least to me, it feels more tolerable. Still extremely uncomfortable, painful, like not fun, but very different than the contractions you get from Pitocin. So anyway, that was my first birth. And then I had one, with my second, I was at a birth center. That was really great. You pretty much get to go home the same day. And then with my third baby, we had the baby at home, and that one was my favorite because I didn't have to go anywhere. So I really enjoyed not having to go anywhere while I was in labor or after delivering the baby. So that's essentially a why, okay? Something that really helped me have a natural childbirth was reading a book called Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. If that is something you are wanting to do, you want a drug-free birth, I highly, highly, highly recommend reading that, because she really goes in depth about, she just really compares our modern like in-hospital birth to an out-of-hospital birth, and she talks a lot about the experience that you have, and birth doesn't have to look like the way it does on TV or in movies where you're on your back and you're screaming in pain. Obviously it doesn't feel good because you're pushing a baby, you know, through a very small orifice. The biggest thing is the way that you labor, you know, when you are at home, you can, or out of the hospital, you can labor however you want. You can eat as you please. When you're in a hospital, you're more constricted as to what you can and cannot do. And all of these different variables lead to your ability to tolerate a natural birth. I would highly recommend reading that book. One thing that really stuck out to me was understanding that when you're in a hospital, a lot of the time you have to be on your back to deliver the baby, and it's working against gravity, so it makes it harder for baby to come out. And oftentimes in the hospital you are working with a certain time frame because of the doctor, and so they might be more inclined to encourage you to be induced or have a C-section just to get things going, as opposed to if you're having a out-of-hospital birth, you can labor however you need to. You can be on all fours, you can squat, you can walk around and just really let gravity do its thing, and it really allows you to focus in and listen to your body and what your natural instincts are when it comes to this very natural thing that we do, that we're built to do. And that just really transforms your birth experience, I think. I mostly just wanted to cover why I continue to choose to go down the midwifery route, and it's essentially just because I really enjoy the experience of having a relationship with my midwife. I really enjoy having the freedom to labor the way that I want, and my midwife really listens to what it is that I'm wanting, and she does her very best to give that to me, and she really lets me take the wheel as far as how I want to labor and how I want to birth, and I really appreciate that. I hope that you found this video helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes to having natural childbirth. What are you concerned about? Is it something you're curious about? What questions do you have about that I can possibly answer later on? If you didn't know about this option, then hopefully it was helpful. Of course, I also have to preface that going the out-of-hospital route is definitely if you are having a healthy pregnancy. There are obviously times when you need to birth in the hospital because you need to have access to certain things that cater to your specific situation. Again, this is just if you're interested in natural birth. If you are gung-ho for the epidural, that option is out there for you. It's great that we have that as an option, and go for it, you know? It's your body, you birth how you want. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!